Welcome to With Thunder's Applause podcast, where two friends get together, talk about the events and ideas that will shape our uncertain future. Today is our Thursday drinking and smoking stream called Shooting the Poodoo. I am your host, Steve, along with my co-host, Zach. What is up?
Not a whole lot. I found a new brewery and beer. It's called Shiner Tex Hex. And the box art was good. And I looked at the percentages and it was like 9.5 for three of them, 9.5 for another three, like 7.5 for a third. I think 7 for the last one. So it's just like, I'm going to get that. That's a good deal.
Yeah. I find the higher the ABV, generally, the less I like the beer.
Oh, these are good.
Like, I think I discovered this hanging out with you. It's like, dude, I can't fucking drink Sierra Nevada's Bigfoot, like barley wine.
Oh, yeah.
Because I drink like 2 of those and some other beers and like get fucking massive headache when I wake up. Like I'm hungover and I'm like, bro, I drink like 4 or 5 bottles of beer, but
yeah, there's a lot of extra
I shouldn't be
stuff
hungover
in beers like that. Thankfully, I've taught my liver a lesson over the years.
You did.
It does what I say.
It's like, please stop before we get any older. And you're like, shut the fuck up.
Glug, 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 glug.
I'm gonna drown you in some booze. Shut the fuck up.
Oh,
going with our new theme here, backgrounds. I like it.
Yes, I'd have to go to the. No, it's too much. But
that's the Emperor coming to see Vader.
Yeah, there you go. It says, but you're still coming to work,
up on
right?
Mustafar. You're still coming to work.
That is how it is. Yeah. I got a job interview next Tuesday. It's gonna suck.
It's gonna be great. Don't psych yourself out, bro.
Oh no, I mean it's gonna suck just because then I might have to work.
That's true, but it'll be a much more dignified showing up to work.
Mostly because more money.
Yeah, considerably more. Yeah, than you're used to making. But that's awesome. I started teaching a class this week. It went pretty well. It's an introduction to permaculture class.
Okay.
Got pretty decent feedback from the students I talked to. Mostly talking about fucking energy descent.
Okay.
So talking about fucking peak oil, basically.
Yeah.
And
being left with less than our ancestors for the first time ever.
Yeah, and for the first half I talked about that, and the second half I talked about ecological restoration.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any particular sites? Or just a general idea?
Greening the desert in the Dead Sea Valley in Jordan, the Les Plateau, Rajasthan, India. There's an afforestation project there. Zimbabwe, a homestead in Zimbabwe. And what was my 5th one? Oh, Al-Baida project in Saudi Arabia on the Red Sea.
Okay. Nice. I'll have to get all those in there. Yeah.
Are you typing the closed captioning? Do you need me to spell this for you?
No, I'm good. No, I spelled Rajasthan. Jeez, dude. But
Rajastan,
right? Exactly.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. Let's see. Gardening. Plants are coming up now. All of them. It's golden. Excellent. I'm like a month late, probably.
I was combating weeds. I was very pleased to find once I pulled the vetch off of everything, because the vetch grows pretty thick up underneath the oak tree. I think it appreciates the shade. But it's kind of taken over there in a way that other plants have not. Unfortunately, it fucking smothers everything if I don't pull it out. So I let some go to seed, like on the boundary area, but I pull most of it out before it goes to seed. But I have like a couple currants or a gooseberry and a currant, which are in the same family, but like I think they might be the same genus. At any rate, they actually were doing really well. I have a Point Reyes Ceanothus back there that's been doing pretty well back there, but like I guess all that rain, like everything decided to like put some serious time and serious energy into growing.
Right.
In a way that I haven't seen in the last 2 years.
There's hope yet. Nature is heat. No, it's not.
No, we're about to go into fucking. I heard that's like abnormal for a La Nina, but now there's like I was gonna include a climate change one, but I mean, whatever. But anyway, some ocean temperature measurements in the Pacific, especially off the coast of South America, are like meteorologists and shit are like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's like they're well above what we would expect them to be based on historic pattern and modeling.
Yeah. Yeah, there's an ocean current that goes from Antarctica up the east coast of the United States all the way over to the UK and then back down. And models are like, that could shut down. Like if we don't, reverse temperature changes, like that could completely shut down because like there wouldn't be as much freezing in Antarctica. And so there wouldn't be as much cold water getting pushed into the ocean and then circulating north and back down.
Yeah.
And that's what makes like the UK and that part of Europe like somewhat livable.
Well, yeah,
Like,
it's like
it should be a lot colder.
Wet, but it's pretty temperate. Yeah.
Yeah. Same with the East Coast. It should be a lot colder than it is. Like, it was, you get to like, Vermont,
and
Maine,
that works.
And so on.
In the Atlantic is also significantly smaller too in terms of like a body of water.
Yeah, the volume is a lot less because it's a lot shallower, even though it has, I think, one of the deepest points.
Yeah, I don't know. Either way, I thought the article on the moving into an El Nino and the early sea temperature readings that they're looking at was interesting because they were in the article. There was a paragraph about like, actually scientists think that emission standards on transoceanic shipping vessels is part of it because they had to put like sulfur scrubbers on or something. And so I was just like, they didn't call it aerosol masking effect, but they're like basically like, hey, we stop. And sulfur, like the whole nuclear, as we discussed in the nuclear winter episode, like how a volcano is not exactly a perfect analog to like a nuclear explosion,
right?
Because they emit so much sulfur, which has such a like more severe like cooling effect. At any rate, so they put sulfur scrubbers on the ships, and the oceans are warming a lot faster. I just think it's just like fucking nonlinear responses, You move the system and this like to change some fundamental variables of the system very quickly, and it responds very quickly, right?
Right. The more extreme the prodding, the more extreme the reaction.
Indeed.
As we all know from getting our
Earth
knee
has got
by
a
the
feeder.
doctor. Just needs more cowbell.
I was gonna say it needs more cowbell, but ultimately, like we're the fucking germ, right? Just gonna hit
Maybe the
hard
cows
fucking reset.
In the future, be like, and that is how the cows inherited the earth, for they were so meek.
Yeah, and then we'll legit have cows with guns.
Awesome. You want to watch?
You've
video?
seen that video, right?
No, what are you talking about?
What? Okay, while we play one of these clips, you should cue that for our end card. But we can. We could probably show the whole thing. Yeah, it's like a little animation and song. It's actually really good. It's really funny.
It's 5 minutes. It's 5 minutes, and they made an HD version that's 6. Okay. Oh my god. Okay.
But it should have millions of views, and it should be like some nobody, not like somebody who's gonna come hit us for copyright.
5.6 million views for sure.
It's pretty popular.
load that up real quick. There we go. Okay.
All right, let's get started. Part of the reason you have your background of the Emperor asking Anakin, but you're still coming to work, right? After you got burned up on Mustafar, is because you have a news item on something about working.
Right to work, my man.
Right to work.
Yep.
Where at?
It was Michigan.
Okay. You got any clips to go with it?
I do. And there's another clip from I think it was NBC, and they were like, "Is Michigan the anti-Florida?" And I was like, if they are,
so.
Yeah. But there's been a pretty fair amount of progressive shit going on in Michigan, so people are like, "Oh my god!" It's like, well, yeah, it's a coastal town, and it's north. Naturally,
it's on a coastal on a lake.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's on the Great Lakes, man. They're practically a fucking ocean. They're huge.
I guess so. I've never been. Actually, the Midwest is the part of the country I haven't been to.
Well, that's because it's
time in the South, the Southwest. I'm infinitely familiar with.
Yeah. I mean, it's flyover territory, and I'm not running for president, so I can say that.
You know what's funny is that it's not flyover territory.
Have you ever flown over it?
I mean, yes, of course.
Have you ever stopped there?
In Chicago.
That doesn't count.
Layovers in Chicago metropolis. Have to count, right?
It's a metropolis. Oh my god. Oh.
Doesn't count. No, I've never driven. We were supposed to drive to fucking Wisconsin, which would have taken us right through there, but we were gonna go see Slayer.
That's true, but a car full of people wanting to go see Blues Travelers fucked that up for us.
Oh, Blues Travelers is right.
Good. Yeah.
Oh god, I can't believe I forgot.
Nobody got what they wanted on that vacation.
Nobody did. Bastards.
At least my car was salvageable. Theirs was totaled. Fuck you. My little fucking Honda Accord will destroy your Tacoma.
I want to say it was like a Chevy Blazer, or it might have been like a GMC Yukon.
Oh, I don't remember, dude. But I went on and did it to a guy in a Tacoma later on in Chico. My car was undamaged, hit his axle, totaled the car. He was at fault. Yeah, so he had to pay for the whole fucking thing on his end. The worst that happened to me is I spilled a soda from Wendy's. I was very upset.
That's great.
Call me later on. They're like, "Oh, he's complaining about neck pain." I'm like, "Seemed fine at the time. Work that out with his insurance." And then, sure enough, they were like, "Oh, you're both to blame," because this is California. So they're like, "Oh, well, everybody's to blame for whatever happened. You all get."
If you're driving a car, you're to blame.
Yeah. So, but total a fucking huge truck. Get out of my way.
Absolutely. So we were going to start with the debt ceiling, or were we going to start with yours?
I thought you wanted ABC.
Okay. Yep. Never mind. Yep. I said you were going to.
That is debt ceiling. That is debt
but
ceiling.
Instead, we're going to talk about. Have you ever seen the movie Groundhog's Day?
I have. Yes. I've also lived Groundhog's Day because I worked in an office.
That's true. That's true. Anyway, Groundhog's Day, most people should be familiar with, is a movie about a guy who's an asshole. And so then he's cursed to repeat the day over and over and over and over and over again until he grows a heart, right? Well, It feels like Groundhog's Day because Congress is spending its energy on debating the debt ceiling for the, I don't know. How often
I believe is the proper term.
2 or 3 years.
Yeah, just say umpteenth and that'll get it.
Umpteenth time. It's really funny, and I'll point out something a little bit later.
Okay.
But anyway, so let's just get a quick what is Congress talking about as a short ABC news clip, and then we'll talk more about kind of the theory stuff. Go.
Right on.
The White House is calling Republicans' plan to raise the debt ceiling ransom. The House GOP narrowly pressed its bill to raise the debt limit while cutting government spending yesterday. But Speaker Kevin McCarthy says there's been no progress on setting up a meeting with the president. ABC's Elizabeth Schulze joins me now from the White House with more on that. Elizabeth, this bill wasn't a sure thing with this slim majority in the House. What's in this Republican plan?
Well, Diane, House Republicans have insisted since the beginning of this debt ceiling saga that any plan to raise the debt limit must also come with future spending cuts. And that's what this is. So House Speaker McCarthy just got enough votes to get this through the House. Basically, a plan that raises the debt ceiling by $1.5 trillion or until March 2024, whichever of those comes first, while also making steep cuts to federal spending, cutting back, for example, COVID relief funds, clawing that money back, trying to rescind funding for the IRS, taking money out of renewable tax credits, rescinding some of those pieces of legislation passed under President Biden.
We don't have enough money. Let's underfund the place that gets us money. That is all.
And also trying to put new work requirements in place for federal safety net programs like food stamps or Medicaid. This is the plan that McCarthy was able to just garner enough votes for that he says shows the priorities of Republicans when it comes to future spending. But of course, we know the debt ceiling is about paying bills that are already due, Diane.
It's like, it's not about future spending.
Yeah.
It's about bills that are already due.
Right.
And I will never be one that's like, oh, good, Republicans are so awful. Like, I don't fucking care. Like, to me, there's no substantive difference. Everybody in Washington, without exception, is the fucking same, right?
Well, what about Bernie?
I was gonna say, Bernie, your AOCs, it's all in fucking rhetoric, bro. They fucking play the game, and I think they genuinely
they're really great orators.
What's that?
They're really great orators, and that's about it.
Yeah, and you know I'm sure that they believe that the things that they talk about as policies are good things, but like, if you're not willing to like expend political capital to make it happen, then like your principles don't mean fucking shit.
Right.
But I always find it interesting when Republicans are like, we're gonna cut the IRS because they created a narrative that the IRS was weaponized against conservatives.
Right.
And I'm sure it was because the bureaucracy is fucking as corrupt as everything else, right? Like, but I did think like work requirements for SNAP, if I remember reading it correctly, they wanted 80 hours a month. That's 20 hours a fucking week. So you like have to, I mean, yeah, I guess so. You have to at least find part-time employment to like qualify for fucking to feed yourself, which is like a basic human right.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
not according to America, neither is housing.
And what do you do if you're like a fucking like a person with a child or a dependent adult, like somebody with like, you know, neurodivergent or whatever, right? Like you're a caretaker for someone. Like, how the fuck are you supposed to?
Well, and that's the trap. That's the trap that gets laid. I mean, you know, they have it where if you are working and on programs like that and you get above a certain income, they drop them all at once, 100%. And so you would actually end up having a lower amount of money at the end of each month. And so you're better off just staying on the programs until you can get a job that pays a lot more. And so, like, why do work requirements when what you should be doing is tiered or programs that encourage you to find gainful employment when it's good for you?
Yeah, and I honestly think that if there's going to be if you're required to work, then the government should be able to provide a job for you.
Oh, that's an excellent point. Yeah, I've definitely heard that before. Like, if I'm required to work, you're required to employ. And like, I have a feeling a lot of people be like, sure, go join the military. Like,
military recruiter wouldn't take us.
Well, not us, but I'm saying, like, you know, other people, like, you know, younger people, they'd probably just be like, cool, go join the military or whatever. But yes, you're right. Well, and that's why they need, you know, some sort of like actual if you want to make it a military thing, just so it gets military funding, you know, you can still call it a branch of the military and just be like, we have the conservation corps at home, but we actually fund them. And
right, yeah, absolutely. Conservation corps is exactly it. And I was
even just paying people to pick up garbage
doesn't take single mothers either.
Right.
Even if you're no, they did take some single mothers, and even if you're married, if you have kids at all when you go in the military,
Yeah.
like if I remember correctly, they made you like a family member or something. Usually your parent, right, would agree to care for their kids if you got deployed.
Yeah.
And they had to agree, like, is a legal contract, like, you will care for these children when we take our asset and take it somewhere else to be useful.
Well, yeah.
They're not, they don't fuck around. So that,
Well,
I mean,
well,
the
I mean, they don't
military
fuck
wouldn't
around
be an
because
option.
yeah, I mean, they don't fuck around because it's a bad image.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it's also complicated, and they don't want to be put in a position, like, I guess you said, image, where they're like,
They look bad. That's all it's
screaming, and it's like, no, you're coming with us and fuck your children, right? Like,
yeah,
and they don't want to be
or
obligated
even
to, like,
just to the
take over and have some kind of care system in place for them.
yeah, and it's a lot easier to exploit single non-childed people than it is to exploit single or even married childed people, because it just has a bad look, where you're like, oh yeah, like we're going to take you away from your children on a routine basis because that's what's required of military service. It's much easier to just get single people, just be like, oh yeah, we're going to take you away, and it doesn't affect anybody else because you're an adult and you have no dependents or anything like that, so you're ripe. Come on over. But yeah, there need to be a lot more guaranteed jobs at not the military, that the government has. And
we
like
should fucking do a long episode on job guarantees and look at what some of the countries in Europe do.
Yeah, good call.
Make it out. Okay, great. So it's just interesting, they're kind of like, they called it a ransom, right?
Yeah.
The last time we defaulted for like, or shut down, we didn't even default. Like the government's fucking bond rating got downgraded, and like a bunch of fucking government workers got furloughed, and like, that's the reality for most people in federal service, like that are in like office jobs. A lot of them can make quite a bit of money. So like,
yeah,
you should have enough with secure employment. You should be able to withstand a couple weeks of not getting paid. Compared to most people who can't, right? When the government's like, I'm going to go out to this fancy restaurant and allow my friends to eat at restaurants, but you peasants stay home. COVID.
Yeah. I shall go to the French Laundry. Who am I?
You're Gavin Newsom.
I don't know.
Or what do they call him? Gruesome? No.
Traveling Gavelin?
I don't know. There's fucking names for him then. Screwsome. I don't know. Anyway, so let's get a little background on the debt ceiling.
Yeah.
Let's start with how it works. The government spends more money than it takes in. It's done this off and on since the country was founded. But now it's doing it more than ever. In each of the past 4 years, it has spent over $1 trillion more than it took in. In February of this year, it is projected to collect about $215 billion in revenues and pay out $460 billion. The government borrows to make up the difference by selling bonds to investors around the world. Nearly half of that debt is now held by foreigners, much of it by Japan and China. Each month that the government spends more than it brings in, that is, each month that the government runs a deficit, it has to borrow. The sum of all this borrowing is the federal debt. It's been growing, both in dollars and measured against the size of the economy. Until World War I, Congress had to vote each time the Treasury needed to borrow money. To give the Treasury more flexibility, Congress switched to setting a ceiling on the debt in 1917. When the debt bumps up against that limit, Congress, often with a lot of shouting and bargaining, votes to lift the ceiling. And that is where we are now. The government hit the $16.4 trillion federal.
Hopefully Wall Street Journal doesn't ping us.
Whatever, man.
I didn't think of that. We're covering news items.
We are. We'll cover this.
One of the funniest parts.
We're using it as a substantial jumping off point.
Yeah, so let's jump off and talk about it. So like, it's fucking banking, right? The whole fucking fiat currency bullshit. They only started the graph at 72. Oh, imagine that. The year, I think,
we went
the year
off the
before
gold. Yeah.
the year of that we switched off the gold standard to fucking fiat.
Yeah. That's just how it works, man. Buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, crypto's not doing so hot.
What are you talking
Is
about?
it?
It's been on the rise for the last few months.
Oh, really? I thought it had hit some hiccups.
They had another exchange go belly up, but I mean that happens all the time. There was a crypto bank. I don't know how you do that since most cryptos don't increase in supply on a regular basis. And then there's also just the all-around
I thought the
negativity
bank was
surrounding
more
it.
of an exchange service.
No, there are literal banks that are like, oh, deposit your cryptocurrency with us, and we will get you returns. And so you don't have to do any direct exchanging or anything like that. But yeah, John Oliver did a decent enough one. If you watch that, you'll come out with the right ideas.
Yeah, I did. It came after his Chuck E. Cheese one.
Oh, he did another new one just
Yeah, I
recently.
know. I saw it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We generally keep up with him. Not that a lot of the times it's just so I can yell at the screen and be like, you fucking shit lib. It drives my partner crazy.
We need to put like a definition in our community tab of shit lib.
Yeah. Words we'll use. Shit lib.
Yep.
There's probably a few. We also have to put our motto, right?
Oh, yeah.
Remember
Word
what it
first,
is?
shenanigans later, or something like that.
Safety first,
Safety
shenanigans
first,
later.
shenanigans later. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Responsibilities first, pleasure later.
Yeah, this is a cool little infographic guy talking about that. Interestingly enough, I mentioned Groundhog's Day. Well, that video is fucking 10 years old.
Yeah. I do wonder, like, maybe the ceiling was a bad idea. It's just like, hey, we're having to vote a lot and it's inconvenient. Like, hey, yeah, cool, keep that up. I want your job to be inconvenient. Like, maybe you should be thinking about all these things more
I
often.
think this next clip talks a little bit about.
Oh, does it? What a good segue I have.
More than a third of these bonds, and therefore the total U.S. debt, are owned by Americans and American companies. Investors and also banks, local governments, and even pension funds keep their money in bonds. And the largest part is owned by the federal government. Yes, the federal government owns part of the federal government's debt. The money for Social Security is actually kept in bonds. So is the money for Medicare and federal pensions. The Federal Reserve has bonds too. Foreign investors only own a quarter of the U.S. debt. And while Chinese investors used to have the largest share, Japanese investors actually own more now.
Yeah.
They own around 4% of all U.S. debt.
Just note there
And
that
it is
about 8% held by China and Japan,
Mhm.
and 25% foreign held debt.
Yeah.
The last clip we watched said half of our debt is owned by foreign governments.
Right.
So either the Wall Street Journal was being hyperbolic or bullshitting, or there's a substantive shift in 10 years to who holds the bonds.
Yeah, I mean, this was, let me see, this is a year ago. So this is much more recent. Yeah. So yeah, it may have been that a lot of people divested in America in the last 10 years. I can't imagine why they would do that. So, I mean,
China clearly did.
Yeah.
Or maybe not, unless Japan just passed China. But either way, China used to be the largest single holder, and now Japan is. So there was a shift somewhere.
I could understand Japan wanting to invest heavily in the United States because, like, it's a good defense against China. Like, China has been fighting, to take Japan for a very long time. And I'm talking about, like, since ancient times. So, like, if all of a sudden, the U.S. just failed, I think Japan might be a little fucked because all the rest of the world was pretty goddamn far away.
Yeah.
So that could explain why they hold so much.
Let's finish this.
A lot of debt. Of all the developed countries, the U.S. has the fourth largest debt compared to the size of the economy.
That's interesting. Japan has the highest debt. And yet they own more, so maybe it doesn't mean quite so much.
Yep, and then who else is up there? Spain,
Greece, and
UK,
Italy,
Portugal,
two
Italy,
different,
Greece.
two different countries that underwent austerity. Portugal.
Yeah, the pigs is Portugal, Italy, Greece, and Spain.
Yeah. So
Basically, all the bastard children of Europe.
yeah.
I mean, really, though.
Then the UK in there. I don't know. A lot of people would argue
on that too.
I mean, a lot of people would argue that taking on debt is necessary for growth. So
it doesn't really mean anything. I think they get to that point.
Yeah.
So is this bad?
The really, really frustrating answer is we don't know.
Debt has pros and cons. One question is, what are you doing with the debt?
When you're in an economic recession or an emergency, not only should you borrow, you should borrow a lot. But what you shouldn't do is borrow when your economy is strong and the political inconvenience of paying for things is too high.
Another really important question is, what are interest rates? In recent years, interest rates have been very low. That tends to make it easier to borrow and to sustain that borrowing. Where we are now doesn't make me, as of now, very nervous.
I worry about the debt a lot more than he does.
While all countries take on debt, only these two have debt ceilings. Denmark's, however, is kept so high, they're not going to come close to hitting it. Unlike the United States, where the government is constantly having to raise the debt ceiling to pay for spending they already approved.
That's the big problem with the debt limit, is it's internally contradictory. The government passes a law that says you have to spend 10. It passes a law saying you can only collect 8 in taxes. And then it passes another law saying you're not allowed to borrow 2.
If the U.S. does hit the debt ceiling, it would mean the Treasury couldn't issue any more bonds, so no more debt revenue. Taxes would still be coming in, but that's not enough to cover all these responsibilities. So maybe they stop paying federal employees or stop spending money for programs. But at some point, they won't be able to pay the interest to these investors or cash out Social Security bonds. That's called a default. It's never happened. Yet.
You couldn't do more to sabotage your financial system than default.
Interest rates could rise based on a reassessment that the United States was considerably riskier than people had thought before. When government bond interest rates go up, that usually means that
it's like they've never heard
rates go up.
It's like they've never heard of like A+, A minus.
Before, when government bond interest rates go up, that usually means that other interest rates are going up.
If you borrow for anything, whether it's for a dishwasher, a car, college, or your credit card, that's going to become more costly. We're going to lose jobs. Wages won't go up as high.
We could be like these countries and just not have a debt limit. Or have one so high it's never a threat to the economy.
Or have one so high it's not a threat to the economy.
Yep.
But yeah, so it's interesting. First of all, it's absurd. And it's something that they didn't mention, right? They're like, oh, well, if they can't do that, then they're going to have to cut programs, or they're going to have to lay off staff. And it's like, well, one of the things that I could not see in any of the kind of cursory sources I looked at, right? No one ever brought up how fucking like many fucking huge tax cuts have passed since fucking W. Bush was in office.
Well, I mean, this is the Wall Street,
they just cut
Journal
taxes
Box.
left and right. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it's the Wall Street Journal and Vox. They can't talk about that because their investors/owners won't let them.
Okay, well then maybe I fucking selected shitty sources, but like,
I was just gonna say maybe that allows us to talk about it, since nobody pays us not to talk about things.
Well, it's just interesting because like, and again, it's mainstream media, but I don't see a lot of people mention that outside of like academics, right? In some podcasts, right? Generally like, but that's in my opinion what has fueled the national debt, the wars, and the fucking tax cuts. Because they cut taxes while waging over 2 decades of fucking war, and we never stopped. Right?
Well, and then earlier they were talking about how they're going to try to cut money from the IRS, and it's like those are the people that go after the richest people and make you money in a functioning society. In a functioning society, you got to let me finish. Stop shaking your head. I see you. Yeah, like the IRS is supposed to be the ones that go after the millionaires. Like, sure, they always like, you'll hear in videos like, oh, and their cited reason is that it's too hard. It's much easier to go after poor people. It's like, yeah, but blood from turnip, y'all. Like, it's not happening. Go after a few of these fucking people. Make examples of them. Like, when you do prove it, like, don't just hit them, for what it is. Like, make up new fines. Like, if fucking, banks and shit can make up new fines, I'm pretty sure the IRS can make up new fines. The don't be a douche fine.
Well, the fines would be set by the legislature if it's a government organization.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, but at any rate, I hear what you're saying. But realistically, like, you wouldn't need like infinitely more enforcers. I don't think the problem so much is tax evasion, because they still investigate and get people on that, right? Like, that's how they get gangsters.
Very
Like,
infrequently.
they usually get them on
but I mean,
tax fraud.
Yeah, but if you're only
Right.
looking for gangsters and stuff like that, like that's going to get you some amount of money, but go after the seemingly legitimate businesses.
But realistically speaking, like, we need to tell them that they have to pay the taxes, and then their accountants say, "No, this is what you owe for taxes." Right? And this is the best we can do to get you out of most of those taxes, but you owe more taxes because they raise taxes.
Yeah.
And most of those companies are going to pay fucking taxes. The reason they're not paying taxes is not because they're tax evading, right?
Oh, yeah. It's because
Maybe there's a
laws
lot
have
of
been
small
set up.
businesses and individuals that tax evade, but big corporations aren't. But we
Yeah.
just told them they don't have to fucking pay anything.
Yeah. We've set up the laws and the taxes so that they can get away with it with various loopholes. Like every time you go into a store and they're like, oh, would you like to donate to the children's fund? And just say no, because they're going to take that money, they're going to donate it to the children's fund, and they're going to declare it as a gift on their taxes and get out of paying some taxes. Oh, yeah, man.
Grocery store does that?
Grocery stores, 7-Eleven, all those places where they're asking for a donation, that doesn't go in your name. It goes in their name. It goes into a pot that they own, and then they say, at the end of the year, we're donating all of this to this charity. That is a charitable donation. That lets us write this off on the taxes. You get shit. Mega corporation gets everything.
No, you get to feel good about yourself.
Yeah, but you shouldn't, because you're helping a mega corporation. Donate directly. Most of these places have websites. Every time, like at the...
Sorry, go ahead. Finish your
I was going to say, at the end of the month, just donate like $5. Doesn't matter. Just $5.
And honestly, the way that fucking the nonprofit industrial complex functions, like, I would highly encourage either give directly to grassroots organizers for grassroots causes, possibly donate money on platforms like GoFundMe, help new creators on Kickstarter, donate to your favorite creators on YouTube or Apple Podcasts or whatever, like use their Patreon. Like that to me is like, if you give fucking $20 to Red Cross, the vast majority of that is eaten with fucking overhead and like bonuses for the fucking executives and shit.
Yeah.
Like, and then a lot of it gets wasted on frivolous bullshit. Like $20 to someone who's barely squeaking by trying to like make a living doing what they're passionate about. Like that $20 like means a lot fucking more to a creator than it does to the fucking Salvation Army. You're just a number if you donate to the Salvation Army. When you donate on Patreon or Kickstarter or whatever, you're a fucking name. Like, you're a person.
That's a good point. Yeah. Like most of the people are like, oh yeah,
I have lots of good points. I'm just fucking with you.
Yeah, but a lot of the times they will tell you like, oh yeah, if you donated these tiers, we'll read your name, and it's always fun to watch. Like, if you find a channel as it's up and coming and you see like how the tiers change and how they read off like all these names. There's one guy that I watch who's like, we're just going to put the names over here and I'm going to keep talking. And like, he'll talk for like, it started off, he was talking for 30 seconds and now he talks for like a minute and a half and he's like, okay.
I know a lot of people just use the ticker at the bottom.
Yeah.
So it just runs through the names while they're doing something else.
Yeah, I like James Prigione's, or a version, where he'll be like, oh, this week we had, the new a new person join us. It's so and so from blah blah blah. Thanks for donating, etc. etc. And you can do it more when you're smaller. And I hope that as you get bigger, people don't hold it against you and you don't do it quite as much. But can't please everybody. Hey, if we ever get a Patreon or a sponsor or anything like that, I will thank them every episode.
Yeah.
Right at the end, just be like, hey, thanks.
I will literally bake them cookies and mail them to their house.
What type of cookies?
I could do gotcha cookies, unless they're.
I said, what type of cookies? Oh my god.
What?
I said, what type?
I said contra cookies.
Oh no, that's not a type of cookie, like chocolate chip or
chocolate chip,
pecan sandies or whatever.
I'm not big on cookies, man. There's only a couple cookies I like. I like a good oatmeal raisin cookie. I like a good chocolate chip cookie.
You say oatmeal raisin?
I did say oatmeal raisin.
We're friends. I'm kidding.
Oh, you don't like oatmeal raisin cookies?
No, they're good. I like them.
Yeah.
A lot of people are against them. I'm just like, pretty good.
I mean, yeah. I've been thinking about putting my daughter in Girl Scouts, and I've been doing some research, and I wish that there was a better way to do it.
It's all for the cookies.
They really hustle. Like, you go on their their main website, like their for the region or whatever, or for the national, and you look at all the things, and it's like, ooh, events, volunteer for Girl Scouts as a parent or whatever, and then it's like cookies.
Buy the damn cookies.
Has its own place in the fucking menu.
Yeah.
Learn about our leadership opportunity. Cookies.
Well, that's because they didn't get a whole bunch of free land like the Boy Scouts did.
Oh, did the Boy Scouts get free land?
To start with, and then they started making smart purchases with their original fees and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh look, now we own thousands of acres of property. We're no Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates or all the other people that we mentioned on our video about who owns all the land. But, they're pretty well off.
Yeah, so we're moving on to your topics.
Yeah, man. We're going to talk about...
What do you got first?
Right to Repair. Anyone who's bothered to go back into the archives and watch some of our videos.
Bro, Right to Repair, I think, was our very first video, which we should be right around the year
was. We're actually past the year mark for a while, yeah.
Oh,
I think we're a month past. Yeah, we didn't have our, a big celebratory one, but I think we mentioned it. But yes, we've been on air for more than a year now, and it was our very first topic, and it was John Deere versus, I think, New York City at the time. That's where Louis Rossman lives, but he is currently talking about Colorado. So buckle your seatbelts. He's an intense person whose eyes look way too dark.
Because John Deere lost. That's right. After 10 years of opposing farmers having the ability to fix their own stuff, they finally lost because a governor that actually had a set of cojones decided to not listen to the corporate lobbyists like Governor Kathy Hochul and decided to actually pass something that was good for the constituents. Finally, this bill does not have any poison pills in it. It has not been watered down to the point where it is useless to anybody. This bill is actually useful. It does something. It gives farmers access to what it is that they need to be able to fix their own property. We have succeeded in rolling back one element of the you will own nothing and be happy future.
Oh my God, is he a fucking one world order fucking Klaus Schwab?
No, you don't have to. You don't have to be that to be against the you will own nothing and love it in a future, because it is literally the way we're going. I own personally no DVDs, no VHS, no Blu-rays, but I sure do have a subscription to half a dozen different streaming services. Yeah.
Do you know who still collects, gets new DVDs and Blu-rays?
Is it someone deplorable?
No, it's my fucking sister.
That was my second guess.
Okay. I was like, I guess sometimes deplorable. It depends on the context.
That is so bizarre. Steal things like a real human.
They don't have internet.
What the fuck? Where do they live?
Their internet is mobile only. They do not have a fucking cable connection.
Is it just not available, or they don't want it?
No, they're just fucking weird, bro. They're just fucking weird.
Dude, this is the day, you're like, hey, I'm a hippie. I love the earth, but I need my goddamn cable internet.
Yeah, dude. When I graduated college, that was the joke at my big family barbecue. I was like, everything will be fine. I just need, fucking food, water, shelter, and a high-speed internet connection.
Yep. And now you can get all that too.
And now I can.
So I was looking. I was trying to get my phone bill all in order and everything because they owe me some services. And I was just like, "Hey, what's going on? I'm supposed to have this, streaming service for free." And turns out that you gotta jump through a lot of hoops. But I found out that I had used like 224 gigabytes in the 4 months of this year, and that is
From your
amongst
phone?
yeah,
Wow.
and that is amongst 3 devices, mind you.
Yeah,
So
okay.
what is that?
Gigabytes each.
160 or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot, dude. I get a notification usually near the end of. I have an unlimited plan,
Yeah.
right, for data, and then it's
Right.
still
Same here.
like,
Yeah.
oh my god, you used 2 gigs this month. And I was like,
Right.
so
That is
what?
that is actually set in the operating system, not from your thing.
Not for my carrier.
Yeah. The thing is, most carriers have 2 gigabytes, and so the phone, as long as you have an Android phone, it just automatically notifies you at 2 gigabytes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. But we exceed it all the time. Obviously, we're 700 and some odd, like a piece if you average it out. But yeah, I've gotten that warning like every month forever, and I'm just like, that's nice. It's
I
unlimited.
usually barely exceed 2.
Yeah, I am voracious.
Yeah, and
needing to
often
watch
it's because
videos and shit.
I'm not connected to like. Sometimes I just turn off Wi-Fi because if I'm like going out to the
Yeah, me too.
backyard beyond Wi-Fi, like I get the same connection in my house as I do out there on mobile. So I just leave.
That's
it
what
on
I'm saying.
mobile
Though,
data.
it's like,
Yeah.
this is just mobile. My Wi-Fi is much worse. Doing these live streams and shit like that.
Oh yeah.
It's pretty far up there. Like
Yeah.
I think I get 2 terabytes, and I routinely get above 1.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
impressive.
crazy. Okay. Does he got anything else to say?
No, that's all I had for
You
him.
just
But
need
yeah,
that really fucking
you need that intense guy, who's just like, finally.
swabbing fucking Bilderbergs, space lizards.
Well, he prefaced that by talking about like, hey, we're gonna go. I don't think he's a conspiracy theorist. But he prefaced all this by like, hey, I was talking to some people out here, and I got this, or I was like going out for food with a friend of mine, and I decided that needed to wait because I got a text message from this guy in Colorado who sent me this, and I just got to talk about it right now. And I'm like, where's that friend of yours? Are they like waiting in the car? Were you on a date? Is there someone just wondering like what's wrong with you? How are you, Lewis? Oh man. But yeah,
Let's keep rolling.
Yeah, keep rolling. This is right to work. I don't know. I suspect that more and more states are trying this because it's so beneficial for businesses, but let's hear something about it.
Right to work, like you said, very misleadingly named law, essentially is the right to freeload. Makes it so that workers at unionized companies don't have to pay union dues but still get to benefit from collective bargaining agreements brought on by the unions.
To do what they did 10 years ago behind closed doors was devastating. It, struck a chord with working people, and it's something that they've never forgotten.
Led by Governor Rick Snyder, Republicans' goal was to cripple labor unions and make it harder for workers to collectively bargain for better wages, benefits, and working conditions.
No, right to work.
Oh yeah, I mean it's much older. The video is 2 months ago, but it's this actually went through pretty recently.
Unions lost 40,000 members in the last 10 years, and wages stagnated.
So it cut the power of working people, right? It showed that corporations have much more say than their workers, and it showed these exact workers all over the state that the government cared more about profits than it did about people.
Yeah, but unfortunately, every generation has to learn it anew because this is American. We hate our parents, and so even if they might have some good.
I hate my parents because they're fucking boomers.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. They might have some interesting advice, but you'll never get to talk about it.
I mean, I don't hate my parents. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But
I don't care about their opinions because their opinions are shaped by a world that doesn't exist.
I guess my point is that there's so much going on where it's like, if intergenerationally we just exchanged more information, and like especially when it comes to like parent to grandparent, because a lot of times like your parents are in the shit, you know, they've got you, they have to support you, you know, they don't really have time to like sit and reflect unless their job is pretty, you know, routine. Like I think I listened to more podcasts and watched more YouTube videos when I had a full-time job than I do now. Because now I have more free time to do the shit that I want to do. And I used to be trapped in an office and I would just watch videos 8 hours a day. But like maybe only 7 if someone wanted to talk to me. And so I like took in more information. But anyway, but you don't have much time to pass things on to your children, unfortunately. But like grandparents do. And so that was a great opportunity to pass this sort of information along, you know, where it's like, you know, like, hey, you know, when I was young, things were this way and we had to like fight in order to get it this way. So like if anyone talks about taking away your libraries, you fuck them up.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you, especially when it comes to things like defunding public libraries. Like the fact that people aren't fighting harder for that is a testament to the fact that people don't go to libraries. They just use the internet. But like likewise, it's like, oh, well, union, that's correlation, not causation, right? Like they like to say, oh, it's a lack of people in the labor union for why our wages are being suppressed. But like, no, they fucking offshored everything. Right?
Yeah, but not everything can be offshored. Like you can't offshore the people, you know, working in your restaurant. You can't offshore.
Right, but restaurants have never been unionized. In fact, under federal law, like you don't like restaurant workers and farm workers aren't under fucking minimum wage laws. Like, you know what I mean?
In California they are, but yes, I do know what you mean.
No, I mean federally.
Yeah.
California and other states obviously have them under minimum wage laws, but
right.
But not farm workers.
Yeah. No, exactly. And that happens a lot in California.
Yeah. 15-year-olds in the fucking fields.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
At any rate, you know, I'm not did they say Michigan passed right to work?
No, they repealed right to work.
Okay,
they passed it, I think, about a decade ago. They repealed it just now.
Snyder, that's old school.
Right. We still have it in California. And so, of course, unionizing here is harder, not impossible, but harder. But I mean, like, honestly, of all the work that's left in the United States, it needs to be unionized or at the very least, like, more organized than it currently is. Like, working in the food service industry just blows.
Dude, but they don't want to. You're gonna get me fucking fired up. They don't want to. They don't.
I want to get you fired up because I got to go to the bathroom. You get fired up, Steve. I'm gonna put you on solo right now. You see that?
No, dude. Restaurant workers, in my experience, do, even though some of them want to. I'm not a restaurant worker. I have been a restaurant worker before, but talking to friends in other people that I'm you know, close with, talking to them about unions and unionizing and even just democratic control, not even unionizing, not fucking, you know, collectivizing the organization or anything like that. You like, why don't you all come together and just say, hey, can we have a better system for scheduling ourselves so that like we know when we work more than like a day in advance? Because they're only required to give like 24 48 hour notice of your work schedule. So you could be like, oh yeah, I'll do that with you, because I never get scheduled on Saturday, and then all of a sudden they're like, you're working Saturday and you're on the schedule. So what do? Say, oh no, I can't do that. Put in for vacation for every little tiny fucking thing you want to do. No, and you say, hey, you know, you guys can come together and say, hey, we are the ones being scheduled. Let's work amongst ourselves to figure out a way to schedule us in a way that benefits all of us, or that like ensures proper staffing, that just basic democratic control. Hey, let the workers decide with the objective of maintaining proper standing, or with the mandate to maintain proper staffing. Let's figure out how to fucking staff it amongst ourselves. Instead, the boss, who's like completely disconnected from the actual workflow in the environment, is the one that's making the fucking schedule. And then you say, hey, you're getting fucked. Like, you don't know when you work. You come to work whenever they tell you to. And then even when you're not supposed to work, they call you and say, I see you. I'm just finishing my rant.
No, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get it to focus.
Oh. You are a little blurry.
Blurry, geez.
Oh, geez.
I'm a force ghost. That's what it is.
What is it?
So I said I'm a force ghost. That's what it is.
Gotta let me use the force.
Use the force, Duke.
At any rate, and having conversations, and they don't want to it. They don't fucking care. They won't even. I was saying it's not even like people I've talked to. It's not like I'm saying, oh, you collectivize, your workplace and like kick your boss out and like do, all these protests and work stoppages and all this stuff and like seize control the means of production, right? Like, I'm not even saying that. I'm like, instead of the boss who's completely disconnected from workflows, why does she make the schedule and then tell you guys when to work no sooner than like 48 hours?
Yeah.
Right? Like, they give no fucking notice.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, you work this day. Like,
I'd be getting even in an office, that had like pretty decent scheduling and stuff. I'd still be getting notifications sometimes Friday for the next week. Like, oh, it turns out so and so had to do this, and so we got to put you over here. And it's like, I guess. I mean, thankfully, I'm like single, no children, so that works out for me.
To work next.
She can go get her colon cancer surgery or whatever.
But yeah, my point is that, like, not even talking about unionizing or seizing the means of production, like, you can't even get people to agree that, like, hey, maybe we, as the people involved in the actual productive activity, we should maybe work amongst ourselves to set a schedule that's mutually beneficial to all. With obviously the mandate that staffing is maintained. Right? But just decide amongst ourselves how we want to split up the fucking work that needs to get done. Because some people get sent home early when they're like, fuck, I want the hours. And then people who are like, oh, I got something I want to do this afternoon. And they're not getting off early, but the person who wants to work is getting sent home early. Like, and they don't even, you're not going to get people to unionize if they won't even fucking like speak common sense. Because unionizing is really, like you said, really fucking hard.
Yeah.
And seizing the means of production is even harder.
Getting 6 people together at a table to play D&D is hard. Imagine how hard unionizing is.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. You'll never get there because you can't even get people to like assert basic common sense shit that helps the boss.
Yeah.
Because it helps the boss if you take the responsibility of fucking setting the schedule. Right? At any rate, I'm done.
Well, another thing that I thought about earlier today as I potentially, re-enter the workforce is it sucks so much that you as the person in the trenches doing the work have so little say in the direction the job goes. Like, you'll get a program that you use changed on you, and it's like, this is significantly harder, like more steps, so on and so forth. And like later on you might find out like, oh yeah, well, unfortunately the software was sold as a suite and it makes everybody else's job easier and yours just happens to get harder, but you have to deal with it because the overall cost is worth it. Excuse me. And the benefit to other people outweighs your suffering. And it's like, I'd like to think that if I had anything to say about it, it might go a little different, but
yeah,
you end up just being a small cog in a machine.
How much is left on this clip?
Nothing. You know what we got right now? This is what YouTube is feeding our channel. I try to subscribe to everyone that we use, just to give them a little, subscription, a thank you for their video. But apparently that has led us to this, which is pretty common on TikTok, which is the nasty, most repugnant rug clean this year. But here's what we're actually watching.
Is that rug clean?
In this series of videos,
pause. So
this is what came after the one you sent me is rug cleaning. But I mean, everybody gets rug cleaning.
Because of my algorithm or yours?
It
or
is
the
based.
Account?
It's just the account, as far as I know.
Okay,
it might.
I actually watch those.
I do too. Yeah.
One of my favorite ones are like fucking old tool restorations. I just like,
dude. Anytime they get to use that laser thing to like
brass fucking wire off old screws and shit.
Dude, those are good. Have you ever seen the laser cleaners before?
No. I've seen sandblasting.
No, lasers next level. They're like $60,000 though for like a handheld unit. But basically it like hits rust and just vaporizes it. And it also does it with like, or most materials, but the bonds are a lot stronger in the non-rusted material. Since rusting is just entropy taking effect and taking things to a lower energy level.
Yep.
So yeah, like it hits that rust and it's able to make it go away super easy. Everything else not so much, and you can just look at the vapor as it's like running this like laser tacking tool or a tool over your like your rusty ass tool. It just goes away.
And so it's better than sandblasting because you remove less material overall.
Remove less good material, yeah. And more of the problem material. And it's like, dude, if I win the lottery, I know what I'm getting. No goddamn reason. I'll start a shop where it's like, give me $1. I will clean your rusty shit. Like, well, I've got a whole like, cylinder casing, from a 1957, whatever. And I'll be like, I don't give a fuck. Bring it over here. Wearing my breathing protection and everything. Having a good day.
Yeah. Cool. So I thought we could end tonight. And we're actually pretty damn good on time.
Yeah.
But why don't you roll both of the shorts if you have them both queued?
Just back to back?
Yeah, back to back. So Canadian Preppers does shorts stuff for TikTok and YouTube. Most of it's like long form, but they do shorts as part of what they do.
Because they're smart?
Because they're smart. And he's got like 1.2 million subscribers and whatever. Yeah, he's pretty big. As far as YouTube channels go.
Yep.
Anyway, so his newer theories that they're doing for shorts is survivability rankings for cities after shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting. And so the two I selected were Victoria, BC and Vancouver, BC. Right? Vancouver's in BC?
Yep. Yeah, because Vancouver Island is off to the west.
Yeah, like pretty much Washington State.
Don't tell them that. They'll fight you.
Well, it's part of Cascadia, bro. We even did a video on it.
I agree, but they are firmly part of Canada. They use the metric system and everything.
The Civil Wars, the Great Civil Wars.
Yeah, but that means that Cascadia is going to have to use the metric system, and those people from Oregon won't agree to that.
Well, maybe they'll just be a Cascadian subduction zone, which I didn't come up in either of his videos about Victoria or Vancouver.
Oh man, you got to talk about the potential for fucking tidal waves and earthquakes and comets that fall from the sky.
I was gonna say that. Learn to swim. Learn to swim. Nice. Great fucking song. Great band. I fucking
great concert, man.
Great
Sleep
concert.
Train Amphitheater. Fucking forever ago. Your sister.
I've seen him a bunch of times.
If you don't take Zach, I'm gonna kick you. Or whatever the hell she said.
She said I had to take you?
Yeah. Well, I think she said you were talking about taking some girl to it or something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Who would I have taken?
Dude, when it comes to the ladies, you'll put them hoes before bros on occasion.
From time to time, I put hoes before bros for sure.
Yeah, but Michelle swears up and down, that she was like, I told him if he didn't take you, that like, it was going to be a problem.
I actually, because the walnuts are dropping pollen, and everything is fucking coated in goo, or yellow planches. I went over to car wash on Esplanade across from the Studio Inn to get a wash, and I was just like, "Oh, Studio Inn, that's fun." That just came to mind now as one of the times I've definitely put house before, bro.
Right in the parking lot. Anywho,
right in the parking lot.
Are we ready?
Yeah, you played both of them back to back.
Okay.
And what I thought we could do is use this kind of basic framework and then talk about where we live.
Okay.
in the context of his framework and give it a con and a pro. Let's see. So play them both back to back so I can top off my cocktail.
All right. Oh, see, that's what it was.
What?
In this series of videos, we rate cities based on their survivability after the apocalypse. Today, we're assessing Victoria, British Columbia, which is located on Vancouver Island in Canada.
Oh, no.
First off, the cons. Living on the island means you need a boat to access the mainland. Victoria has been rated as one of the worst cities in Canada when it comes to crime. Whether or not this would carry over post-collapse is unknown. There's also risks of earthquakes and tsunamis. And the island is full of mountain lions, which will most certainly kill you if they get the chance. The pros. Victoria is a temperate climate year-round with no need for heating or air conditioning, and also has a longer growing season. The island is heavily wooded with lots of trees, and it's ranked level 9 on the plant hardiness zone rating scale, which is the highest in Canada. Full ocean access means an abundance of fish, and a low population density means low competition for resources. Overall, we rank Victoria an 8 out of 10 when it comes to survivability. Stay tuned for the next city we rate. In this
I have to wonder how many people on Vancouver Island are like, Canadian prepper. Leave our island paradise alone.
know that I was gonna be ranking cities in terms of survivability after an apocalyptic event. Vancouver, the cons. Vancouver has the highest population density, second only to New York in all of North America. Metro Vancouver has a population density of 13,590 people per square mile. Many people here are hopelessly dependent on the critical infrastructure. Another problem with Vancouver is the congested roadways. There are few ways in and few ways out. It's a very rugged terrain, and evacuating the city would be an absolute nightmare. Vancouver is very close to the US border, which means it would be a very busy place after disaster struck. Lastly, in the case of global conflict, Vancouver may well be a nuclear target. The pros of Vancouver. Vancouver has a temperate climate which is survivable year-round. Vancouver has abundant fresh water from large reservoirs. The land is very fertile and can grow an abundant amount of food. There are many places where you can bug out in the mountains, so we're giving Vancouver a 6 out of 10 when it comes to surviving post-collapse.
Wait a minute.
6 out of 10.
Wait a minute. I could swear.
We rate cities based on their survivability after the apocalypse.
No.
Today we're assessing Victoria, British Columbia, which is located on Vancouver Island in Canada. First off, the cons. Living on the island means you need a boat to access the mainland. Victoria has been rated as one of the worst cities in Canada when it comes to crime. Whether or not this would carry over post-collapse is unknown. There's also risks of earthquakes and tsunamis. And the island is full of mountain lions, which will most certainly kill you if they get the chance. The pros. Victoria is a temperate climate year-round with no need for heating or air conditioning, and also has a longer growing season. The island is heavily wooded with lots of trees, and it's ranked level 9 on the plant hardiness zone rating scale, which is the highest in Canada. Full ocean access means an abundance of fish, and a low population density means low competition for resources. Overall, we rank Victoria an 8 out of 10 when it comes
Wow.
So Victoria,
Vancouver was only a 6, and Vancouver got a 6.
Vancouver got a 6, but he didn't mention earthquakes and tsunamis for Vancouver, right?
And no, which is interesting because they would face them.
They're
I think the idea
those two cities are like right next to each other.
I think the hope was that Vancouver Island would basically take the brunt.
Maybe. I have no idea.
But yeah, Vancouver Island is a
8 out of
place
10 for Victoria.
Vancouver Island, Victoria. Yeah, that was actually, I was looking to move to a Vancouver Island. Still am. Like, hey, you know, if you are a Canadian and you know someone who can help me with that, I will accept any help you have. I would love to be a Canadian.
I would love to have healthcare.
Yeah, I would love to have healthcare. No, but
you'd have to give up guns. But you don't really have guns.
I don't have any guns. The weather was what got me the most. Is I was like, "Ooh, that sounds nice." Like I was looking after going to Santa Cruz. I was like, "Oh, you know, what other areas are like this?" And it was like Vancouver Island's pretty goddamn close. And I'm like, all right,
bro. The Redwood Coast is basically like Santa Cruz-ish, Monterey Bay, all the way up to past
Eureka-ish.
No. Redwood Coast goes all the way through British Columbia.
Right, I get it, but it gets a lot like colder as you get further north. until you get to Vancouver Island where it warms up a bit. I don't know what that's about. But
yeah, I mean, you have cooler coastal areas, but like, I mean, honestly, the Redwood Coast is like, I've done a lot of research, and the Redwood Coast is where it's fucking at. As far as they're still gonna have rain, that whole like near fisheries, right? Like, we don't really have fisheries to speak of, although I do suspect, well, not really. I would hope that without human infrastructure in the way, those wild fish population, the salmon populations would rebound. But with fucking climate change baked into the cake, whether human beings are around in significant numbers or not, like, I don't think the fucking salmon fisheries are really going to survive. It's going to be a severe bottleneck. If any genetics make it through, they will probably be significantly different than the ones before.
And that is an issue that is facing
hot water and stuff.
A lot of fisheries are facing similar pressures. Out in Maine, fishers are noticing that lobsters are less abundant, but at the same time, they have like, I think it's a certain type of crab and a species of shrimp that are migrating northward as the waters get warmer. And then out in Alaska, they're losing a whole bunch of, I think it was king crabs. And they're like, we don't know what happened to them. They must have walked over the continental shelf. And it's like, yeah, them damn crabs, so clumsy. And it's like, no, man, the water's got too fucking warm. And they were like, oh, let's go over here. It's the last cold place. And we don't have GPS. So we don't know that we can just like, take a jaunt over here and then go down. And they're like, oh, shit. We all died. Like, you're going to lose your fisheries no matter what. And you got to hope that you can get something out of it.
Yeah, and their numbers are already so severely depleted.
Yeah,
like so like we're already making it harder for them to survive disturbance because their population's smaller, and that's what I mean about the salmon here in the streams here in Northern California.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you have farmers that are like, I don't understand why the river needs to reach the ocean. It's like, because fish depend on it for reproduction. Like, that's why the fucking river needs to reach the ocean. Like, you don't use up every last fucking drop of fresh water from a river because life depends on it. And other industries, you depend on it. Sure, your farmer ass is happy now because you got every last ounce of produce that you can get. But then you just killed a whole industry by doing it. So every time I see those signs, where it's like, plants grow where waters flow, etc. Like if you don't live in California, you don't know that sign. But
that's propaganda primarily by corporate fucking ag anyway.
Yeah, but it's everywhere. It doesn't matter who it's by. It's everywhere. And there are people that will uncritically look at it and accept it.
And now the farmers are like, oh, we need to control this water, get rid of this water.
Yeah.
Right? Because Tulare Lake, right? Like down in the southern part of the valley.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is flooding. And I wonder if California will have monsoons in our lifetime.
I'm guessing.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be fun?
Well, I mean, we are
total shifting. I mean, Canadian Prepper was talking about how unpredictable, weather would get.
Well, we're gonna have that's basically what we had this last year. Atmospheric rivers are basically monsoons.
It was fantastic. I will say, where I live, hey man, if it could be like that every year without getting up to 110 during the summer, I'll take it. But it's probably gonna get higher.
Yeah, and so let's measure our cities. So you want to just kind of do them combined because they're more or less the same. There's like
they are very similar. Yeah,
I could only think of a few fundamental differences. So
we're a lot flatter for a lot longer, and so
heat island effect farther to go to get into to bug out to the woods.
Well, more importantly, the heat island effect is a lot larger. Like we have straight up like malls that are larger than half a Chico on the north side of town. It's pretty sad, and it's really hot during the summer.
Well, and then part of the heat island effect, as I understand it, and I learned this at a water forum I put together. I might have mentioned this to you in a previous podcast. Is they were talking about groundwater management and how important it was for farmers like to get on board with groundwater management planning and schemes. because like Fresno depleted groundwater so rapidly that like trees don't fucking grow.
Yeah.
And so
along the river, yeah.
Yeah, except along the river, right?
Yeah, well, and even then it's much more sparse, and that is actually led to more evaporation on the river.
Yeah.
Like there are those compounding effects that make it
but if you look at the city of Chico, like only the newest neighborhoods and some of the ones they've stretched out to the kind of like marginal land with thinner soils, like there are large trees like in most neighborhoods, even the fucking poorest neighborhoods, which usually it's poor neighborhoods that lack the trees, right? Like it's like, no, there's large trees all over this fucking city. And then you look at Fresno, and I was just looking at Fresno earlier because I didn't really realize how it was laid out. Like I didn't realize the fucking international airport is like right in the middle of the fucking city, which like makes not a lot of sense.
It was it was on the outskirts when it was made, but the city consumed it because it had to put poor people somewhere.
I see. And the university is right there too.
Yes, the university is interestingly closely placed to the city center.
College is probably one of the first major public institutions in town.
Right. But yeah, the airport, man, it used to be the southeast side of town from like what I've seen, and now like everything just kind of wrapped around it. And again, because you got to put poor people somewhere. And so they have houses there, but the sad thing is the houses are not even cheap enough to justify it. Like in this economy, you cannot even those houses are like $300,000. And you live like right next to the airport, and it's like, yeah, there might not be.
They're the kinds of houses that Wall Street hedge funds like to buy up and then rent to poor people and then raise the rent all the time.
Right. Yeah. Well, and the thing is, like that airport, it has JetBlue and on Delta and all those other
have an airport, yeah,
right. A major one's flying out of it, but all the tickets cost like $100 to $150 more. And then the worst part of it is
Oakland or SFO.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so a lot of times when you do buy a ticket, it's like, I want to go to Puerto Vallarta. It's like, cool. You start in Fresno, you go to San Francisco or Oakland or whatever, and then you go to your destination.
Yeah.
Dude, now I forgot, man. You distracted me for too long.
No, it's all good. I just forgot how the city's laid out. So we don't have much time. Let's go over our cities real quick.
Yeah. Oh, the jets. I was going to say, with all the commercial flights and all the individual, like personally owned flights, the biggest disruption in the city is the jet flights from the Air Force Base. Like everything else is fucking piddly because it's so high up and so tiny that you barely even hear it when those jets come through them, man.
And where's that? That's on the
southeast. No, southeast. Yeah.
Oh, it's also there.
But they basically fly a big loop from the base all the way around the entire city and back. And if you try to tell me that isn't an intimidation tactic against our very own citizens, I will tell you you're wrong. Like they're just like, look at the power that we have. We can cover this.
No, I mean, pilots need to practice.
No, they don't, man.
Yes, they do.
Dude, you and I play video games.
Bro, that's the name of the game.
No, man, you put them in a fucking like virtual cockpit, it's the same. They have set up the cockpit. So on submarines, they made it so the little thing that controls the periscope works off an Xbox controller. Because that's what kids know when they join the military. It's the same with the planes. They're very similar to like flight simulators. So kids get in there. You don't need to give them real flight time or anything like that. You just need to give them the indications, the knowledge of what happens when they run into, some sort of anomaly in a weather pattern, and then let them go in a simulator. This whole thing, nothing but a show of power.
That's going to have to be a conversation for another day, bro, because I disagree.
All right.
While it may be possible to do it with simulation, regulations have not caught up. They are required to get a certain amount of time.
So it's basically the bureaucrats.
Well, even if you're in a fucking
being 20 years behind,
man, like it doesn't. There is no mechanism to substitute. In the military, they require sim plus live flight training. and with like whatever private general aviation stuff, like
no, but I get it.
You're
but it's
required
just
to
because
get a
the
certain
people
number of hours airborne to get certified.
Yeah, but that's because the people making the rules haven't caught up and don't know that the simulations
No,
are
and I
just as
agree with
accurate
that,
as
but
real
I'm
life.
just saying, like,
I
don't know why we're fucking arguing about this. Now I'm just annoyed because, like, it's not a big deal. And how did we get talking about fucking airports? And you telling me how it is when I was
That's
the one
my
with
jam, dude.
12 years in aviation, bro. So fuck off. I
Well,
am
yeah,
the
but
expert of the two of us on this shit.
Yeah, but your education is still grounded in older thinking, where the
No,
idea
I
is like,
freely acknowledge that they could put more simulator
Yeah.
training. It will never substitute for the real thing.
but why though? Why? Everything is so predictable.
You can't predict fucking people going in when you're playing video games and you're playing like a first person shooter, or is your fucking heart racing like you're about to die? No, if you're flying
Yes,
a plane,
dude. Yes, that's why I'm
No.
so bad at. Okay, so I will say this. Yes,
All right.
and that is why I'm so.
We're out of time in 2 minutes.
No, we're not. Yes, my heart starts beating, and that is why I'm so bad at first-person shooters, because I'm not a fucking sociopath or
You might
psychopath
be.
who's out there ready to like kill people. Like my heart
People
gets
who
going.
like first-person shooters
I don't. I
probably are
hate
pretty
them.
relaxed when they're playing. They would not be that relaxed if people were shooting live fucking ammunition at them. And that's
But I wonder if that's the truth, though. Like, if you become accustomed to a set of inputs, you can definitely do those sets of inputs no matter how real or unreal it is. And with flying, so much of what you're doing is based off the altimeter and your other indications that you don't really even need line of sight in order to know what's going on. In fact, line of sight might hinder you in a lot of ways. Sure, it'll tell you when a flock of geese is coming, but that's about it. Like everything else can be done with your instrumentation. Eventually, we're going to have airplanes that are just boxes with no windows because we'll have realized how unimportant windows are. We're going to be full on Star Trek, dude. No fucking windows. Like, bring up the display screen. Hail them.
And there's still minimum requirements for weather. Pilots have to be able to see the fucking light. Instruments can get them real.
I will say that. I will say that. But you can simulate
but the decision
weather
height
too.
Is generally like 50 or 60 feet above ground. So if they can't see the fucking threshold lights by 50 feet above ground, they're required to go around because it's not fucking safe to land.
But you can simulate all that.
Have you ever seen fucking Die Hard 2, motherfucker?
But you can simulate everything you're saying. You can simulate weather and everything, man. Like all weather, lights, all that shit can be simulated. You just put a VR fucking headset on the bruh. He's not gonna know the goddamn difference.
Yeah, simulators work. They don't fucking substitute for the real thing yet. And I doubt they ever will. And I used to run the simulator, remember? I'm perfectly aware, at least for
you have a lot. Yeah, but you have a lot of questioning when it comes to the validity of technology. So of course you would be like, oh well, it's not the same thing.
I ran the simulator and tried to create realistic situations, and it couldn't because it's a program. And you have, if you have a super highly sophisticated simulator, sure, it would be technically feasible to allow for all those variables, but in practice. From the ATC side of the house, I was the fucking master trainer.
I'm saying, dude, eventually
command general staff of the fucking entire career field giving me rewards for being so badass. And like, you're questioning me. I'm telling you, you cannot recreate real situations in a fucking simulator.
Yeah.
It's too fucking expensive to be economically feasible.
Dude, how much does fucking jet fuel cost?
A fuck ton.
Yeah, and you burn through how many gallons of that shit? Should we even bother measuring in gallons? Should it be decagallons? Centigallons?
A 747 that needs a full fucking tank, if it idles.
What about the jets, though, that are flying over my house making all the goddamn noise? Like, when we do this...
make noise, dude.
Yeah, but when we do this at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday, the jets are a threat. Jets is threats, because they might come through at any moment, and you're going to hear it. And I'm going to have to stop talking. Like, that shit's real.
No, jets are fucking loud. I worked in aviation. I'm aware. And the reason they fly a big loop is for noise abatement. And you could actually go to your government documents and find out what the fucking noise abatement is. You could call the public affairs office at that base and say, hey, what are your procedures for noise abatement? And they would tell you. And they do plan to try and minimize noise. The reality is a fucking jet is a jet.
But I'm telling you, a jet is a jet, and a scenario or simulation with a lot of work is just as good as a jet.
Yeah, well, you got to get their hours to certify. So,
well, again, that's bureaucracy. That's a bunch of old people who don't understand that a simulation is just as good as a jet.
I want you to take some.
You got to get up there and you got to fly.
Pimple-faced fucking 19-year-old kid. He's like, I've been playing fucking flight simulator since I was 10 years old. Yeah. You're like, oh, you have 12 years of flight experience. Please fly my fucking commercial jet.
Boom. Yeah.
Yeah, right, bro.
Dude, it's gonna get to that.
All
man.
right. So we don't need to talk about the places we live, because the place you live is clearly so shitty that we just argued about fucking nothing forever. You're also
we do have about 4
suffer
minutes
from a fucking nuclear weapon because you're a city of 500,000 people.
Yes, and
you
we've talked
have a
about
higher
this.
population, and you have Navy Naval Air Station Lemoore is not that far from Fresno.
Yes, and that's why
the entire Pacific fucking all the flying squadrons in the fucking Pacific.
Right, and that was the thing is right here we have 3 major shipping freeways that do a lot of interchanging and stuff like that, and we looked at it in a prior episode, and you can absolutely bomb the center of it and knock them all out.
Yeah,
and that would cut down a lot of shipping.
The Naval Air Station Lemoore has 275. The entire Pacific Fleet's aircraft squadrons, all the flying squadrons, are based in Lemoore. I just found that out today.
Okay,
how likely is it? Yeah, it's like 275 fucking aircraft.
Yeah. And that is about, I think it's about 45 minutes, maybe an hour away.
Oh, is it that far?
Yeah.
You wouldn't.
I think it's 45 minutes. I think
in short radiation distance.
Yeah, I think it's 45 minutes.
Radiation.
Because I went there to.
It's barely on the other side of the valley.
Yeah. Well, I went there to do some dealings with Navy Federal. That's their closest one. And I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's like 45 minutes most.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, it's pretty close, and there's a lot of Air Force out there. It's kind of like having the Beale Air Force Base in your backyard.
Yeah, and so I have Beale, but Beale is significantly farther. And while it has a Space Force early warning radar system, like honestly, I still don't think it's a target, but I think it's a lot lower target than some other places. Like if you had the opportunity to fucking hit Lemoore and say like only 2 carriers have their fucking squadrons, right? 2 carriers are out with squadrons, or 3 carriers, or whatever it is. Then like you still have fucking hundreds of fucking planes at Lemoore. And then you have a reserve squadron. Like a replacement squadron, I guess, is like whenever one goes down from a boat, they go out to the boat, but they're not actually assigned to a boat. They're kind of like floating.
There we go. Lemoore.
But at any rate, so you're much more likely to affect that, but you have a higher population. You have slightly more violence. Chico's, I don't know, dude. I always get fucking weird about Chico's violence statistics, like violent crime statistics. Like I'm pretty convinced the way that's reported inflates, like, because that means every fight at a bar, every fight outside a bar, every fight at a fucking house party, all of that is considered fucking violent crime because it's battery, right? And so now, like, it's like, oh my god, Chico's fucking violent crime rate is so high, and you're like, can we separate like what happens with college students where alcohol, or in places where like copious amounts of alcohol are consumed, from actual violent crimes? Like how many people are just walking down the street and then someone tries to fucking mug them and fucking stab them? Like, how many times does that happen? Oh, that doesn't happen.
That's true. Right. Never been mugged or stabbed. Had a drunk college student accost me. You were there. You remember that.
I do. Were you going to show Navy Lemoore?
Yeah, Lemoore's right here. This red little dot. And when you zoom out, you can see that here's the coastline. But here's why Fresno is for sure going to get bombed. It's these 3 highways, the 180, the 99, and the 41. And as you can see, they go down and they meet up with like the I-5 and a few other things. They are the only roads out of Fresno. And if you bomb that shit right there, you shut down everything.
Well, there's also train depot and a bunch of industrial parks.
Oh, yeah, man.
And also population, right? Chico is not like a likely target.
Well,
Beale is probably the closest. Sacramento probably.
Yeah, I've been there. It's not about killing people, is the thing. It's about shutting down services for demoralization. Like, if you can demoralize the population, that's a good thing. And so you bomb in this area right here, the mural district. You hit all these highways even tangentially. That's going to demoralize everyone. And then you also shut down any traffic that was coming through the area. And as you can see, there's like routes around it. But like, look at this shit here. You have to go all the way to Mendota. If you were coming down here to get to, someplace past Fresno, now you got to go all the way here.
Just on state highway. Like, there's fucking farm roads that are just on a big old grid pattern too, though.
Yeah, but Google's not going to be up. And how many people that drive truck nowadays are actually familiar with like local roads?
Oh, true.
Yeah. It's a wonderful
I don't
situation
think under a scenario where a place like Fresno gets nuked, like, the biggest concern is I can't drive to where I need to be, right? Like, you're like, wait.
No, I'm talking about big shit. I'm talking about like transporting massive amounts of things along freeways. And like, here seems like a good point too. This little nice triangle right here, south of Bakersfield, for anyone who's looking and wondering where
a lot of strategic nuclear policy has to do with crippling economic.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Look at this. This all goes to the grapevine. So your options are A, nuke the grapevine anywhere between fucking, Wheeler and Lubbock.
Or why don't you nuke further south, hit train lines, water infrastructure, and all that shit, and also make the fucking highway like irradiated.
What about right here? Same thing. This looks like a good spot. Right here. Look at the I-5
or something.
Well, let's see. It is San Fernando Valley. So,
in San Fernando Valley,
yeah. But look at this, man. Look at this. The fucking grapevine comes in.
That's Santa Clarita right there,
yeah, Santa Clarita, and then you have everything coming in on the 101 over here. You fucking hit this area. It's a good triangle, man.
Yeah, and you can knock out a bunch of people and cripple the region.
Yeah.
Because you think that people in the south part of LA County are going to be fucking going about their daily. I mean, they're going to bomb the ports too. Like, it's point. Anyway, the point being is that as far as cons, I don't take high crime rate in Chico as a factor. Maybe where you're at, there's a lot more gangs, and there's a lot more people.
Yeah.
So crime is, even though Fresno's crime rate is barely, I think per 1,000. If I remember correctly, Fresno was like 6.5 and Chico was 4.5 per 1,000 or 5 per 1,000. There wasn't a huge difference. But at any rate,
look at this shit here. Everybody's like, California's so bad. There are literally like 2 or 3 more colors after us. Why would you make it all red?
Everybody says California is so much worse than it is.
Yeah, but here you go. Alaska, one of the worst violent crime per capita. Same with fucking, what is that? New Mexico, Louisiana, Tennessee, Kentucky, I believe. Is that right? Kentucky?
Yeah, right above Louisiana and Arkansas.
Arkansas. I'm not always great with geology or geography.
I think it's Arkansas above Louisiana, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is too.
Yeah, and then right above that is
What are those flyover states that extend?
No, that's Missouri, dude.
Yep,
Missouri is to the Missouri is to the south west of Illinois, I think.
Illinois is okay, yeah. Illinois.
Yeah, Illinois is that one. So that's Missouri.
Okay. What's this one? North Tennessee?
No, that's West Virginia.
Oh
no, wait. West Virginia is the little pink one. So that's Kentucky. That little kind of weird one is Kentucky, and then the other bump next to it's Maryland.
Wow. You got, what is this? South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia?
No, Virginia is the pink one.
And I don't know my country.
The red one. Yeah.
I don't know my country very well, y'all.
So Georgia is red, and then that kind of different color.
Oh, it labels them. Carolina. Oh, that's fantastic. Look, okay, so South Carolina, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Virginia. Oh, yeah, okay, cool. Oh, I like this much
more. Yeah, and so that's Kentucky and Maryland.
Maryland?
Or no, sorry, Kentucky and Virginia.
There you go. But anyway, so what I was saying is everything from here down to here and here down to here is flyover country. None of this matters.
No, that's it goes from New York, and then below that's Pennsylvania, and then Ohio, and then Illinois. Or sorry, Ohio and what the fuck is that one?
Which one?
The one between Ohio and Illinois.
Iowa? You're not talking about Minnesota, are you?
No. In flyover country. Why am I fucking this up?
Nebraska's?
No, to the east of Illinois.
Illinois.
That's Illinois. And what's the one next to it?
Indiana.
Oh, Indiana. Sorry.
Yeah.
There you
Flyover
go.
country.
Well, I mean, maybe Indiana. But Ohio has a lot of fucking people in a lot of major cities, and Illinois has a lot of people in major cities, and Michigan, Wisconsin.
To half the country that we've insulted, debate us in the comments about why your country is worth it, or why your state's worth it.
Yeah. Is that the violent crime rate? Then California is super high.
Not really though. It's this color, which is like several below the maximum.
So South Dakota, Missouri, and South Carolina are.
I don't know why they did these. Like, this color scheme is bullshit. Like, do different purple, green, red. Come on, guys.
Or really, what you need to do is move from light to dark, like that one right there.
Yeah, I think it really is. Yeah, but it doesn't tell you the state name. Damn it. And then this looks different. Dude, look at this. Okay, so
that is a different scale.
Here's Tennessee, though, and it's this lightish color.
Yeah.
It turns immediately dark over here.
Okay. Interesting.
So, yeah, it's
different maps, different stats?
No, it's the same thing. I'm just zooming in. Oh. And it changes. But, yeah, so anyway, Alaska, fucking, Tennessee, whatever the hell, North Louisiana,
Arkansas,
Louisiana, and,
New Mexico.
West Texas.
Yeah. Yeah.
All the worst, all red. Telling us that our cities have high crime rates. Fuck off, man.
I mean, it's violent crime per 100,000. Like, New Mexico doesn't have that many people. And it's a pretty fucked up place. It's very poor.
Still, it makes it easy to measure.
So at any rate, I think that as far as like fresh water, we both have sources.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I would go so far as to say Fresno is better positioned for that. Because we have a creek, but like the San Joaquin River is a fucking big river, major river. And you also have transportation, right? Because you can take the San Joaquin all the way to the bay.
Yeah, but I mean, like, look at the overall color of the state. Like, here's Redding. There's Chico. Look at how green that is. So nice. So green.
Oh no, it's a riparian woodland. Is its original biome.
You get down here. Oh, it's so light. It's so orange, maybe yellowish. Looks pretty nice up here. And then you just got to sneak even further north over here.
Yeah, we have a lot of water. I mean, more water than Fresno, but that's also because of just groundwater drawdown. As long as you have surface water, like you can have clean drinking water.
Dude, places around us are running out all the time, though, and so many people have claims to the San Joaquin River that it's not a guaranteed source. Like we have a place called Tesoro Viejo. It's a planned community that popped up north of here on the 41. And but yeah, it's along the San Joaquin River, and they secured rights to it. And so you have just one additional thing out here. I think it really is out here that has been super developed in the last like 5 years and is drawing off the San Joaquin River. So like all of this nice greenness that you see, like that shit's going to go away. It barely extends from the river to begin with. And like more and more people are drawing off of it with guaranteed rights, like guaranteed by fucking whom,
guaranteed by a functioning state. As soon as a functioning state's no longer functioning, like
exactly, whoever's farthest up here is
from
going
the barrel of the gun, motherfucker.
Not only the barrel of the gun, but the fucking like ability to consume / divert water. Like you better so San Joaquin River, San Joaquin River, Millerton Lake. If Millerton Lake or anything north of it, just decides like, nah, man, fuck you. We're gonna, divert water elsewhere, make another reservoir. Everything south of that suffers.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't think under a shit hits the fan scenario that would necessarily be. We're not talking about like remaking the world. That's going to be a different conversation.
You don't think the first thing people would do is secure water rights?
Water rights means a functioning legal system. We're talking about shit hits the fan. There is no legal system.
Yeah, but I'm saying like right here,
can you get water to drink because you need water to drink?
Okay. The easiest way to make sure water stays where you want it is to fucking shut these down, man. Like people in this area, they're going to be worried about themselves, and they're going to say
the San Joaquin River is a perennial stream, so water's always going to be coming into that dam.
Until it isn't, man. People upstream can use it up so easily. They could sell to Nestle. Like if you think big corporations aren't going to make it out of the apocalypse intact, I think you're wrong. Like
I never said that.
I said if you, but I'm thinking like they have so many strongholds and shit like that they're going to be able to come up here and take whatever they want from the beginning of this and say like, well, society might be down, but we've still got a whole lot of property, a whole lot of money, and we can pay or pay people to shoot your face off.
Yeah, I give my town 8 out of 10.
I'm going to give my town, based on Millerton Lake, about a 3 out of 10.
Why?
Because we don't get much rain every year, and like literally Millerton. Okay, so see all this right here, all the gray / tan, the light tan colors.
Yeah,
these are on account of the lake being
lower.
Yeah, like much underfilled. And so this lake can take so much more water than it currently has. And so I suspect
might be old imagery. This year, it's probably full.
It's not. I've been to other. Well, I've been to other lakes in the area, other reservoirs, and they are not full, and they have similar capacities. And so I have a feeling that in a shit hits the fan situation, all the people upstream of this are going to hit the fan together and cut off access to the southern states.
Is that a hydro dam too?
It is. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we have a lot of hydro here. I think he mentioned
so I can get a job
power in his video on Ontario, I want to say.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, and they have a ton of hydropower. So, that helps. So we have a ton of hydropower locally. You do too.
Mm-hmm.
We have lots of fresh water where I'm at. You have enough drinking water, but you're right, it's not going to be as nice.
Yeah.
It's not nice in Chico. It gets hot. That's the big con for both.
Well, it gets hot here, but I mean, like, look at the difference in territory, man. Here's where the river flows. Here's everything else. I don't know, man. It doesn't look promising.
Yeah, and you would probably have to secure water from like at least that lake or further up in the watershed.
Well, and we already had people
just
up
because
in,
like once you're down in the valley, all that fucking river takes like pollutants and shit. Like we have Chico Creek, which runs all year, even during severe drought, enough to drink, not enough to irrigate food crops and all that shit, enough to drink. And it's pretty fucking clean because it reaches the valley like in the city.
Yeah.
So it's just going through mountains. Like, yeah, there's some fucking cows or whatever shitting in it or whatever, right? Like, but
you'll be okay.
We still have to purify the water, but it's not the same as fucking pesticide runoff and shit.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the creek. You can tell by the dark colors. Comes from the mountain.
Yeah, we have several perennial streams that drain out of the mountains near us.
We got these ones over here that runs through the college. This is where I used to sit by the creek and relax, right around here.
Oh, when you lived in that weird tweaker place?
No. The creek that runs through the campus. Where is the campus?
That's the creek that runs through the campus further north.
Right here. Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
Now my tweaker place was over here ish. Elm Street. There you go. Tweakerton. And people fucking like fighting each other over whose cat, could take the most kicks to the face and shit like that.
We also had like a weird tweaker bitch fucking clean a pot in your fucking sink.
That was the same weird tweaker bitch. The better person was the lady across the street who never had any kids and always brought over Otter Pops and snacks for my cat. She was awesome, man. And I had Carl across the street who'd come out and play guitar. Mike next door who was convinced that Vietnam was the moment in time where men were emasculated. And it's like, I read your autobiography, and that's just when your girlfriend left you. Have you literally not moved on from that? And the answer is no. Mike has not moved on from that. Like, that girlfriend that left him in the middle of Vietnam is the end all be all of his life. Yeah, it's the end all be all of his life. And he hasn't moved on, and feminists are bad.
Man, all right. So I give Chico an 8 out of 10 because there's water. It's the big downsides are that it's hot.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of arable farmland, clearly. I mean, we live in the region with the best fucking farmland in the goddamn world.
Yeah.
Some of the best farmland in the world is where we live. We have water. I have a bit more water, a bit cleaner water than you do, but you also have more people, more violence or potential for violence. There are a lot of fucking gangs there. There's not a lot of gangs here. And there is violence. Like I was saying last time we got together, there was a fucking drive-by like a few blocks from my house. I was like, I counted 8 gunshots, so he's probably trying to guess his fucking handgun type.
It's like oh, I heard lightning. I saw lightning. Let me wait for the thunder.
Yeah, exactly. But at any rate, so that's just like a little fun thing we do to fucking top it off. Let's talk about. I've been thinking a lot about
how fucked are
the balkanization question, and remember the rules they sent. We'll revisit the rules when we do it. But like, one of them was like it has to be like defensible or whatever.
Yeah.
I like went through like the whole map of fucking California, and I could be like, these are the exact points I would fucking. Some of these fortifications would be like significantly different than others, like depending on where you put them. But there were some places I would be like, this entire hill would be nothing but like fucking bunkers with fucking artillery in them.
Oh yeah. Well, like
scroll down to Pasadena. And scroll out a little. We click on the map. Yeah, there you go.
So here it is.
Oh, no, not that far.
It's Los Angeles where we're looking.
Pasadena.
Yeah, Pasadena. What are we looking for?
Scroll in to see the topography. And now go to the east of that.
Like, what is this?
Go to the east of this.
Boop.
Boop, boop. A little more.
This.
No, you're just looking at terrain.
Yeah.
Okay. So scroll out a little more, so you can see the whole little valley. Yeah. Basically, right across there. See where there's like mountains.
Yeah.
And then there's this like kind of like high ridge in the middle, and then there's mountains that run south out of there, southeast out of there. That would be the place, right?
Really?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know much about military fortifications, but yeah, it's kind of a choke point.
Yeah.
As far as troops moving and like this kind of high spot right in the middle of that.
Well,
and this is all going to be urban warfare shit anyway.
This area looks like it gets good water.
Oh, I don't mean for like surviving long term. I was talking about in terms of balkanization and like needing to be able to defend it was one of the criteria.
Gotcha.
And so I was just saying I was going through the state and being like, yeah, you could divide up the state into a bunch of different smaller states and at defensible positions. And that
so
was
basically this area here.
Yeah, I've long kind of fantasized about taking some of the kind of like utopian or dystopian fiction that's based in California, because there's a lot of people. That video I shared with you of Kim Stanley Robinson, he's done stuff. Starhawk wrote a book that takes place in like this future after this huge, cataclysm. There's the what's his name? Kallenbach that did Ecotopia. And then there was another kind of science fiction writer that did stories based in California. I forget her name. She's really popular. But at any rate, just kind of like I've played with the idea of like making a war game based, like take like elements of these like utopian dystopian kind of narrative. Le Guin's isn't. Octavia Butler. That was the other one I was thinking of. So Starhawk, Octavia Butler, and Kim Stanley Robinson all wrote kind of books. Oh, it says literally fiction. Oh, they're all listed right there. Awesome. Yeah, and so like kind of reading all these kind of like utopian, dystopian, or utopian fiction after the cataclysm or whatever, and like weaving together like a central. Are you familiar with Kaiserreich?
No.
Oh, really?
Yes. Oh, really?
Okay.
Anything that has Reich in it, I'm unlikely to be familiar with.
When we're offline, look up Kaiserreich. It's like I don't know everything about it, but they basically do like historical, like speculative fiction. So like, what if the Nazis won World War II, right? What if, what if the Confederates won the Civil War? Like this kind of things, right? Like, anyway, I was thinking about doing some kind of like thing like that, where you take all this body of already accepted science fiction about California in the future, and then weave that into like a fucking narrative for like a war game. And actually do like the scaled map, grid, or hex areas, and then you could have your units, and it would be the economy of it would be set in drawn from these future books, and just kind of like try and make like something that celebrates the fact that California is unique in the sense that like it has a body of fiction around itself that's kind of like utopia after the cataclysm stuff, like anyway, Ecotopia. What is it? Kallenbach. Yeah, that's what I said. But anyway, I've thought about doing that. So I was kind of like thinking about our balkanization part 2 and looking through the map and being like, where is it defensible? Could you really carve it up? And the answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about like
anywhere there's a body of water or a major mountain, you can carve something up.
Yeah.
Because in the end, we split in 2.
So I give Chico an 8, and I'd probably give it a 9 if I'd give it a 9 if it didn't get so goddamn hot in the summer.
Yeah, it seems like that's not undoing itself anytime soon.
No.
So we'll stick with an 8, and I'll stick with a 6 at most.
Yeah. The only place that I might give a 10 is a little
Vancouver
bit
Island
off the coast. No, I'd probably do kind of like, like the Humboldt area, low population, tons of resources, because you have forests and you have streams, right? Like all the rivers, and you have ocean resources. Where I've considered, and I'm still on the fucking fence, bro. We should probably have a talk on offline. I'm like so fucking ready to just like sell this and fucking walk away and just get 40 or 60 acres out on the Redwood Coast and fucking buy one of them Mennonite sheds and throw some insulation in it.
It's been a lot of child support. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, but I'd probably just take them with me and just fucking unschool them.
That'll work in the uncertain future.
Yeah.
When liberty has died.
Yeah, liberty dies with thunder's applause. Safety first, shenanigans thereafter. You gotta say thereafter.
Okay.
Not later. Shenanigans later doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't have the same ring to it.
Yeah, you're right.
Safety first, shenanigans thereafter. Safety first, shenanigans later. I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I think thereafter works.
Thereafter, just I think more concretely establishes, because if you're just like shenanigans later, it's like sometime in the future, potentially near future. If you said later, right? If you said thereafter, it means like all you got to do is cover your safety bases, and then it's fucking shenanigans, baby.
Well, the main difference is the shenanigans have to come first. Even if you say shenanigans first,
no, safety first,
or safety first, shenanigans later. Like, you might accomplish some of the safety and then get into shenanigans. Shenanigans thereafter almost requires all the safety be done.
I would be a fan of all the safety being done before the shenanigans.
But who's going to enforce this safety?
I am.
You are?
Yeah, because I am two things.
Are you like supreme leader?
No, I'm not supreme leader. I'm the guy that constantly thinks about safety, especially when it comes to people's eyes and ears.
Yeah.
And I'm the shit guy. I'm the guy who cleans up shit, and I deal with shit, and I am the guy who fucking deals with shit, because that's my lot in life.
It's definitely true.
I've been made to suffer.
But I mean, like, what if people want the liberty to just shit wherever they please? Would you kill liberty?
I would, and I would do so with thunderous applause. Have a good night, yo.
Night, everyone.
Peace out.
Thanks for sticking with us.